Tonight's topic is short sales, foreclosures, HUD homes, BPO, and bankruptcy. And there's a lot that we're not going to cover. It's a full plate just to say short sales and foreclosures, but I think we have not spent the time in doing a little training on it. And so we are going to cover some of the lingo tonight. We're going to cover a process and then also a little bit of the contract. So we are starting to see things pop up. It's funny, Candace and I were talking about this earlier, and she's like, why do I feel like it's showing up? It's like we haven't seen short sales and foreclosures for a very long time. So now when we see one pop up, it's like you see it everywhere. Just like if you're going to be buying a car, now all of a sudden you see, if you're buying a Lexus, you're going to see all these Lexuses driving around because you're actually looking at it or you're having something that you're experiencing with it. So tonight I wanted to just give you guys a little bit of an update on where we're at as far as the marketplace. And we have some specific examples that we'll go over as well. So Shannon, if you could go to the next slide. This has come up in our office. So I think the first thing I wanted to kind of bring your attention to on short sales, whether your client or your seller is in a short sale situation, if you know what a short sale is, it's somebody that owes more than what they purchased it for. Then what happens is that if you're going to go meet with them and you're going to go in a listing appointment, we have had some what I would consider close calls. They were not short sales, but they were very close. And it's because we did a good job at educating our sellers about what their net would be. So if we're going to sit down with somebody and we think they just bought it a year ago or bought it 2 years ago, and they may not, they may owe more than what they may owe more on their mortgage than what the market value is or what you can get for them, then you definitely want to sit down with them and go through the figures. So this is an example of a net sheet. So if you pulled up and they actually did, they got it. And you should advise that anybody that's in that kind of situation, I always do for all of my sellers, if they sit down with me and we're going to be listing their home, when I give them a net sheet, I also want to advise them, if I have not received a copy of their payoff statement, how much their payoff statement shows, and so that I know what I'm dealing with. There were too many times up until I worked in 2007, 2008, 2009, but my best rule of thumb, and I was trained and taught to do this when I did my listing appointment, was always bring a net sheet. Make sure that my sellers knew what they were going to walk away with. And I actually would sometimes use my net sheet as a way to say, many real estate agents will meet with you, but they won't go over the true cost of what it's going to take to sell their home. They may estimate, but they estimate poorly. And what I will do as a listing agent is go through and explain all of the fees, including the excise tax, including the payoffs and the special assessments, and if there is any kind of document prep fees that title and escrow would also tack on. I'm the type of agent that's going to be very transparent and going to give all the fees to you. And I won a lot of listings by doing that. And then that practice served me well, because when it came to short sale time, when people were taking out seconds on their mortgage, or they had got a bad loan, or they were in a distressed situation. I work with a good friend of mine, who ended up having MS and bought a condo on the 3rd level. And so I had to sit down and have that conversation, the same conversation I had when the market was very, very good, but I had to have that same conversation. And so my practice was, let's go over the net sheet and let's find out what your payoff would be. So I advised in that situation, my client with MS to contact his bank and get a payoff. The payoff would be approximately roughly when he expected to close out the loan. And when we got that payoff and we compared it to the net sheet, when I met with him, we realized we had a problem. He had more he owed to the bank than what I could actually logistically sell for his price. And so we had to do a short sale, and that's what a short sale is. So go to the next slide, Shan. So when you have a situation, I'm talking for some of you that are new to the business, or maybe you got in after 2008, we're going to go over the lingo, and then I'll kind of go through the pages or the disclosures you're going to need. So you'll hear terminology like BPO, especially when it comes to short sales. BPO stands for broker price opinion, and a broker price opinion is very much like a CMA or an appraisal. It's different though, because it's ordered by the bank. It's ordered by the lien holder. In my case with the MS client that could not, bought a year before, and then we had to short sell, we had to wait for the BPO to come in with his lien holder. His lien holder or his lender ordered that. BK would be bankruptcy. So he wasn't in a bankruptcy situation, but BK stands for bankruptcy. SS, you'll see a lot of that lingo throughout the MLS, and SS usually stands for short sell. Lien holder approval, when we are in the state of a short sell process, what we're looking for is lien holder approval in order to trigger notices. So that's usually related to a short sale. So I want you to kind of keep that in mind. Those of you who are new to the business, you might want to just keep a quick capture of this slide. That might give you some hints or like a cheat sheet on how to handle some of these terminology. Third-party approval, usually it could mean short sale or foreclosure. So depends on how the listing agent has entered it into the MLS database, but third-party approval typically means a short sale or a lien holder has to approve. But I found many in that status that are also in the foreclosure process. And again, there needs to be more training around those third-party approval. Negotiator, only used on short sales, typically used when we have two lien holders, where we have, like Sam was probably disclosing, we have a first and then we have a second that we're getting on a particular FHA loan. If we had to short sale or foreclose on that property, we'd have two lien holders that we'd have to satisfy. So a negotiator might be used in that instance. Back in the day, I used to negotiate myself when there was only one lien holder, for example, on a short sale. But when there became two lien holders, that's when I usually would go and talk to an attorney or a law firm who would handle those short sales and those negotiations, because it was easier for a lien holder, two liens to be negotiated in that way. So that's what a negotiator is typically used for, is when there are complicated short sales or bankruptcies or the like that take a bit more complexity to the process. HUD usually stands for the housing, and it's a foreclosure. So those are different than short sales. Those are not short sales. Those are actual foreclosures that are on the HUD website. I did a quick search so I could see what we're dealing with. And although you might think there's a lot of foreclosures that are appearing, in our area in Washington and Idaho, there is not. In fact, on the HUD website, there is only one currently up for bid in Yakima, Washington, and there is only two in Idaho that are up for bid. So there might be more foreclosures or more HUD homes in other states, but in our area, we've seen a very nice increase in purchase price. And so there are very little foreclosure or very little HUD deals out there for our buyers. REO stands for real estate owned. So those are also foreclosures. Those are also in that category. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of the lingo. Let's go to the next slide. I'm going to kind of flip back to short sales because I have paperwork and a process that I want to go over with all of you. I want to draw your attention to what's on the screen here. And what's on the screen is what our cheat sheet is for if you are going to write a short sale purchase and sale agreement. We actually have had 3 in the last 30 days that have been written. So when you look at how many real estate transactions we're doing in our office, it's a small percentage, but yet we're starting to see some of them pop up. So if you see a short sale on the MLS and you're like, well, what do I need to prepare? This is a nice little sheet that you can download from our resource website that will tell you what to keep in mind as far as the mutual acceptance, disclosures, what's still required. And what you'll notice is on number 4, there's a notice form that's required. And I'll go over that here in a minute, but I wanted to keep earnest money still gets turned in, Form 40, compensation, all of that needs to be done. Much like a regular sale, there's a lot more time that's required in a short sale. The next slide that Shannon's got on the screen here is the advisory. So again, if I'm in that situation, like I said earlier, with the guy that I met with, and I did the net sheet, I did an initial meeting and realized, gosh, he's in a really tough situation. I also want to make sure that I've delivered the short sale advisory for sellers. This is required in the state of Washington. I don't know if you knew this, but it's required anytime you're dealing with a distressed seller. And that could mean even off market. Some of you guys enter into people's homes where it's a distressed situation. and you don't know what their options may be, and maybe you have not received a payoff statement from their bank, so you think, gosh, they just bought it a week ago or a month ago or a year ago, they may not have enough equity in that house. You'll probably want to download this. This is in the pamphlets. It's in the same pamphlets in the MLS as the agency pamphlet, and the mold and the moisture and the lead. So it's been a while since we dusted this one off. But you're going to want to make sure you provide this to the seller, and there is a place for the seller to sign off. And we will need that in our files in order to proceed with the sale. So anytime you're dealing with a short sale seller, make sure you've given this disclosure to them, and there is a signature, and it is a required document for Washington State. Let's go to the next slide. So many of you are, okay, I'm not going to list it. I don't want to go there, Rochelle. I just am starting to see more people in that situation. In fact, I found a listing in Bremerton or in Kent or Covington that's in a short sale situation that hit the MLS, and they're accepting offers by, I don't know, maybe tomorrow. So what kind of questions, what are some things I should be thinking about as a buyer's agent who's entertaining a short sale listing? Number one, these are questions that I might ask this listing agent if it's not readily apparent on the MLS sheet. I might ask the listing agent, do you have 100% complete short sale package that has been submitted to the lien holder or the lender? That might be a great question to ask if it's not readily apparent on the agent remarks. The other one that you might want to jot down, again, these are intermediate or advanced questions. This is from somebody like me who's been doing a lot of short sales in my past. In fact, over half of my business was short sale or foreclosure back in 2009 and 10. So I did a lot of this. And so these are some of the questions that I used to ask those listing agents when I represented the buyer to determine whether the listing would be a viable contender for my buyer. Some buyers would not want to stomach depending on the process or where we are in the process with the short sale approval. So these were some of the questions I used. Has a negotiator or loss mitigator been assigned? That would be a great question, because right now we don't usually use the negotiator because it's not two lien holders, but has the loss mitigator been assigned? That might be a great question to determine where they are in the process. Who is the bank? Who are we negotiating with, or who are we handling? Has the bank picked an offer yet? The bank has a choice on short sales that they can select many offers to work with. And so if they've already picked an offer, can we be in backup position? So that would be a follow-up question to question number 3. Can you tell me the date the notice of default was posted? Is it public record so you can find out through the title contact? Sometimes it's, in fact, most of the time in Washington, it is public record now. And so you can find out if there is a notice of default that was posted. And that will sometimes help if you know when it was posted, where they are in that process. Does the home qualify for FHA financing or for conventional rehab financing? Or are they only accepting cash offers at this time? Those would be the types of questions to ask the short sale listing agent if you are ready to write an offer on one of their properties. Let's go to the next slide. So here's one that I just found it this morning. So Sunny Hill Road West in Bremerton, beautiful home, 2-bedroom den. What's interesting about this one, which I think is fascinating with short sales, and what you'll find very early on, is sometimes the listing agent is given a number. In this case, the listing agent was given the number of $335,000 that they started with. And this lien holder most likely worked in a way where they had to show specific price drops in order to get to the price approved amount. So this particular lien holder probably had some specifications that they had, and they finally got down to $275, and now they have an offer review date of May 8th, 2023. So in this case, they have quite a few instructions on the agent broker remarks. They do say and it's all in caps, short sale approved at $275,000. So they were able to prove to the lien holder over a period of time. You notice the current days on market, 284. That's the reason for that high days on market, is because they started out at 335 at a teaser price, but it didn't tease the market enough to generate offer. And so they had to drop the price, until they got to 275, and now it's approved, short sale approved at 275. The bank will go no less. So they have already received most likely an approved price. Most likely they got a BPO, a broker price opinion, and so now they're ready to sell at 275. So if you're going to offer, you'll have competition because there's probably going to be a lot of people offering on that price. So you have to make your offer compelling. So you're most likely going to have to do your pre-inspection. You're most likely going to have to work with the listing agent if your buyer, needs to get permission to turn the water on for the inspection. All of these things are not relevant in a regular resale market, but in a short sale market, if you're still wanting your buyer to do inspections, you'll have to work with that listing agent to even get the water turned on. And that sometimes is a very, very hard thing to do. Okay, the other one that I found was in Covington. You'll notice that this one is a BK, subject to BK court and lien holder approval. We have worked with this listing agent quite a bit. In fact, she's related to one of our Best Choice Realty agents. And we do a lot of business with this particular RE/MAX firm. And so it's bankruptcy court and lien holder approved. And they've tacked on the bankruptcy fee into the price. So you'll want to look and make sure you grab the supplements, and you definitely want to follow the instructions that are listed here in the broker remarks. So she says, allow 90 days on the 22SS. So she's giving you instructions, but you're like, well, gosh, what does that really mean? I'm going to show you here in a minute, but definitely want to follow the instructions. Title, escrow have to be that law group. Don't try to be cute and funny and say, oh, I'm going to try to negotiate with my law firm. It takes a lot of work to get these things to this point. So it's best to go ahead and follow the instructions here and make sure that the title is with the title company, the escrow is with the particular law group, because most likely there's a lot of complexity to handling that bankruptcy sale and the like. So let's make sure we do that. So here's the actual 22SS. So what the listing agent is requesting is that you guys know how to actually fill out the short sale addendum. So I have not done a training on this before, so this is all new to you, unless you've actually worked through a real one. So if I was going to write on Kai Rainey's listing here, I would want to go ahead and fill in the top portion and include the 22SS as an addendum on my addenda line. Short sale talks about what a short sale is to your buyer. The short sale contingency, it says 60 days if not filled in. So that means that it would take that I am waiting at least 60 days for the lien holder to approve. What she's suggesting is going to take even longer. It's going to take 90 days. So number 2 would be 90 days if not. So 60 if not filled in. What the listing agent is saying is we need 90 days to actually get the lien holder and the approval from the bankruptcy and from the short sale negotiator at the law firm. So that's what she's suggesting. If you talk with the listing agent, I mean, good luck. She's a very busy agent. So if you're wanting to get an offer submitted on this particular property in Covington, I would go ahead and fill in number 2, put in 90. And what that means is that your buyer could still terminate, but they're wanting 90 days to work with your buyer. So we're going to kind of work through that. They can accept other offers on number 3 from other buyers. Termination by buyer, it may or may not. You can terminate, you can check the box. She didn't indicate whether we can do may or may not, but to make your buyer stronger, you say may not, so that they are going to give the lien holder and the bank and the negotiator and the law firm 90 days, the full 90 days to actually get that thing approved at the price that you're negotiating. So you can use number 4 as a way to make your offer stronger, say, than others that are out there. And then the computation of time begins once you get approval. So they're not obligated to purchase if we're not able to get approval, but computation of time, that's when, if you check the box, you'd have to put earnest money in. So if you leave all the boxes unchecked, then nothing else triggers until you get lien holder approval. If you check the box, you're making your offer stronger. So you may have a stronger position to show the lien holder, to show the seller, to show the bankruptcy attorney by putting some skin in the game. For example, putting up some earnest money or doing your inspection ahead of time upon mutual acceptance rather than waiting until lien holder approval. You may want to consider going stronger on number 5. But that's kind of the opposite of what you think, right? You think by checking the box, it's actually going, so for purposes of computing time, by leaving the boxes unchecked, we don't compute those timing until after lien holder approval. By checking the boxes, it's upon mutual acceptance, okay? Number 6, you don't fill in a closing date, because it's basically the closing date will be 30 days. So unlike a normal purchase and sale agreement on the page 1, where you would fill in the purchase and sale, you put it in closing date, you don't actually put a closing date into your first page of your purchase and sale. You actually just let the 22 SS and the lien holder approval 90 SS trigger your closing date. And it says 30 days, if not filled in, that you'll have to complete the purchase. If you're going to be doing cash, maybe your client is doing cash, you can certainly cut that down, and that would be in the best interest of the seller as well, if you're cutting those timelines down. Here's a sample 90 SS. This is what would be used in that sample I was telling you about. Kyrene at Remax, she would be sending you over a 90 SS. Maybe she sends it over on day 48 because she's able to get your offer through the process sooner. Maybe they went to court earlier. Again, the listing agent is trying to help you because there's a lot of people, a lot of hands in the pot that have to, and a lot of timelines that have to be met. So again, that 90 SS would be sent. And then when that 90 SS would be sent, then that's when your computation of time would trigger. If you had left the boxes unchecked, then everything would start triggering. So your earnest money would need to be deposited, your inspections would need to be completed, your financing contingency. Again, you have to watch that because that's when everything gets triggered. Questions to ask an REO agent. So I've talked about the short sales. Now let's say that you're dealing with a client who maybe found a foreclosure on Zillow. Shannon, I think you had one that you found. It was like a 1 million something, 1.2, and you're thinking, well, how in the world is that going to work? It's not even on the MLS. Can my buyer still buy, or can they still offer on the auction block? Can they still do all of that? And the answer is yes, they can. You can still work with bank approved or bank foreclosure forms. They're going to most likely, on those bank foreclosure forms, they're most likely going to ask your buyer to buy the home as is, meaning they're not going to have an opportunity to do an inspection or turn on utilities. They're going to be risking a lot. But questions to ask an REO, say it was a listed property and it was a foreclosure, you'll want to find out from the listing agent if they'll allow for repairs, if an appraisal is required. If the appraiser calls out that we need to have some repairs done, will the listing agent or will the bank allow for a contractor at the buyer's choosing, at the buyer's cost, to go out there and do some of those things to get it to go through? The other thing you might want to ask about is utilities. Can we get the utilities turned on for inspection or for the appraisal? How do I go about doing that? Every utility district has a different way of handling those types of things. Are there any offers into the bank already? Am I in competition with another offer that is already in the hands of the bank? And have you had any deals fall through? And why did that happen? So that I don't run through the same thing. And does your home qualify, or does your listing qualify for FHA rehab or 203K rehab, foreclosure, or is it only cash? Most of the listings that I see, or most of the properties that I see from the banks directly on Zillow that are not listed by Northwest MLS or some of the MLS listings, they're going to be cash only properties. So you're going to need to have your buyer get a rehab, get hard money, or get cash, have those funds already in their bank account before they can even offer using their bank approved forms. So I get a lot of new agents or rookie agents that call me and go, my buyer found this listing on Zillow. How do I go about offering on it? We're not using traditional bank-owned forms. We're using usually Wells Fargo, Bank of America. They have their own set of bank-owned forms, foreclosure forms that they require. And at that point, you cannot advise on their forms because they're not Washington State approved forms. However, you still can get paid a commission. We just either use a buyer agency agreement and get paid through a consultative approach, or we get paid, they have a special section that they have where it does state that you are getting paid a certain commission amount for representing the buyer, or we have to basically work on that consultative approach, or you don't get paid at all. And that's unfortunate because you guys do a lot of work in representing a buyer to not get paid anything on those types of sales. So be sure you reach out to me and let's look at the paperwork that they're asking you to sign so that you are clear on what you can and cannot say. But it does spell out, and we have done quite a few REO and foreclosure properties, and they have their own set of forms most of the time. You're not using the MLS forms. Let's go to the next slide. I think I'm wrapped up, Shannon. Oh, yeah, they're foreclosure. So there was a Foreclosure Fairness Act that was put in place for the state of Washington in 2011. It is really a significant part of McFerrin law. They used to do a lot of the negotiation for me back in the day. And then with the Foreclosure Fairness Act, it stopped a lot of the people from doing short sales and kind of working some things out. And so if you ever have a distressed homeowner and you're like, I just need to be kind of up to speed. I certainly am not well-versed in foreclosures, not as much as a law firm would be. I would highly encourage you to take a class from McFerrin. They offer free classes, McFerrinlaw.com. If you click on their education tab, they also offer core and does a great job of teaching that core class. So if you're looking for free core or a foreclosure class or maybe a short sale class that's more in depth than what I covered today, definitely check out their website right there. They also will take phone calls. They have two attorneys there that specialize. I've used both of them for various situations. But if you just have a question, a general question, they're happy to take your phone call and answer those types of questions, or even direct a client on what path to take. And that's their phone number directly right there. And that's anywhere in the state of Washington for extra help. They won't charge for the hour. They just, as far as a short sale or foreclosure is concerned, they certainly want to point your client in the right direction. So I love using them as a resource. We certainly are here to help. Shannon, Candace, Jenny, and I. Yeah, a few of you, I loved Emily's comment. Yeah, suffering for a little PTSD. Yeah, I am too. It's like, oh gosh, are we going to be encountering? I'd rather step into it and understand that there's processes still the same. There still will be some more sellers that I think will enter into the marketplace. We've seen a few, certainly in the last month or two. And I think we'll continue to see that as the market starts, people lose their job. Again, a short sale is going to be somebody that's in a hardship situation. Think of it like a health situation. Maybe they got cancer, maybe they have MS, maybe they're going through a divorce or a messy separation. Those are the types of situations that are pretty good short sales where they maybe purchased a year or two ago and they might have a hardship. And that's when they'll need to go ahead and work with somebody like you who at least has the knowledge to help them through that process. What I don't want to have happen is you guys put up the red flag and say, oh, I can't help you, when we have so much experience that's within Best Choice Realty and with the lenders that we work with and the attorneys that we work with to actually help that seller get it on the market and go through and jump through the hoops, or take over that investor who's looking for a savvy listing agent to take over some of that portfolio, that small bank that they're like, ugh, I need to offload some things. I'd rather have them talk with one of you. So hopefully this gives you enough information to be a little bit more dangerous, I would say, or at least get the process started and knowing where to go when you have those situations that arrive. I'll go ahead and open it up for a few questions. Shannon, if you want to open it up. There was, I think I got a few chats that came through I didn't get to.
No, I think we're actually okay.
Oh, good. Let me just open up my chat window then so I can see what I got here.
I have a quick question. Didn't you used to teach a 3-hour course on this? And is that something you could dust off the curriculum for?
I certainly could, but I have been directing people over to, I am a CDPE certified instructor. So Emily, yes, I do have that credential. But I'd have to dust off the material and resubmit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Add it to your list. I was just wondering. Thanks. Yep.
But in the meantime, McFerrin does a great job. They've got a good short sale and a foreclosure class. Okay, yeah, there's Celeste, you sent a great comment. There's cleared of over $1.5 million in debt. That's awesome. Short sale negotiator. That's great. A short sale attorney there in the chat. So that's great that we have that. Certainly we have a list that I've got, and it looks like we have from some of our top producers as well. Another question that came in was, how do I know if it's a short sale or if it's a foreclosure? So I don't know if I went through that well enough. Shannon, can you go into the MLS real quick? I'll show how to do that. When you input the listing, you have to indicate whether it's a short sale or if it's third-party approval. And so that's where it becomes entered into the system. And I have caught some listing agents who have not indicated that, and that is a violation. So I don't want you guys to get in trouble. If you find out that you're not sure, it's better to put other C remarks than to say none is not third-party approval required, and then you have a problem with improper advertising. So if you went back half a step, Shannon, I was talking while you went. So in criteria, if you don't have this additional fields, you may want to add or remove the additional fields, but it's the third-party approval required. And then if it was none, which is the bulk of the listings that we see right now in Washington and Idaho, but we are starting to see we had 147 in the others or short sale. So, I mean, you can do the math. It's still a very small percentage in the Puget Sound region, but still nonetheless, it's something that we're starting to see pop. Have a great week, you guys. We'll talk to you next.